Morning, everyone. We'll start with the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we're just asking you today to watch over this meeting and be with all our county residents as they go about their lives throughout the week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion, we approve the claims in the amount of $655,350.99.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and I think I posted reports on your site from AMR, fire, and sheriff, so if you want to go through those.
Lamar, you want to come up?
Morning, Don Brooks with AMR for our monthly ambulance report from November 1st through November 17th. Blue Mound had 9 calls, 2 transports. Centerville had 5 calls, 2 transports. Lacine, 15 calls, 10 transports. Fontana, 2 calls, 2 transports. Linn Valley, 6 calls, 3 transports. Mound City, 11 calls, 7 transports. Parker, 11 calls, 6 transports. Pleasanton, 28 calls, 13 transports. Prescott, 4 calls, 2 transports, for a total of 91 calls and 47 transports. Anything else for me?
Everything going good?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Sheriff's report is, let's see, 56 prisoners, 6 released this past week. Total prisoners in 55, 2 farmed out, 1 conflict inmate. Total farmed in 43. Daily income of $3,265.50. 911 calls 73. Jail contacts 4763. Total calls for service 631. Total civil service papers served 20. VIN inspections 7. I'll get down there in a minute, maybe. New cases open 20. Cases closed 5. Vehicle crashes 13. SRO activities 103. Bailiff contacts 74. 4 livestock out. Randy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Higwald, Linn County Rural Fire Emergency Management. Let's out the call totals for this past week. We had 9 total calls, brings our yearly total up to 483. I did have a small department in Southeast Kansas reach out to me. I'd spoke to them out at the Kansas Chiefs Conference. They come up and looked at the tender at Mound City that we'll be replacing. They're interested in purchasing it. They have council meeting tonight. So the fire chief's supposed to get with me and give me a kind of offer to bring to you guys and go from there. But there is interest in that truck. They did come up and look at it and just
I
kind
thought
of.
we were gonna switch it to another station.
The tender is replacing it. The new tender that
Okay.
we just got in
Yeah.
will go to a county, station on the west side of the county has a DEF truck. That truck will come to Mound City. The current tender that is sitting there will be
Okay,
surplusing out. That's the one that
okay.
they come and looked at. So
All right, perfect.
And they're gonna make us an offer is what.
they're going to make an offer. So as soon as I get that, I'll send that out to you guys just to be aware. I know the company, the website that we found this last tender on, they're very interested in the tender also. And they're in the business of fixing trucks up, putting them back out there and reselling them. So we have options with it, but there is interest in it already. I like to look in, and this is more for information, see what you guys think. The National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland, is a place. It's free training for firefighters. The way that system works is you apply for it. So right now we'd be applying for classes that would be held next summer, next fall. And I would like permission to see who's interested from the fire department and send 6 guys or so, 6 firefighters out there for training at Emmitsburg. The county would be responsible for the airline tickets or mileage or getting them there. The National Fire Academy then pays back the county for travel. The only thing that the county would have is paying the firefighters to be out there and for the meal ticket. The meal ticket for 6 of them would be less than $500. It's cheap to be out there. It's a dorm style living while you're out there for, most of them are 6-day classes. I'm just kind of seeing if you guys would be okay with starting that process. Like I said, we would have the money up front to pay for the transportation out there, but then that all gets reimbursed through the fire academy. So I just wanted, it'd be 2025's budget money that we're spending, but we need to start the process now to get them,
So the
out
only
there.
thing we'd be out would be the meals.
out the meals and then paying them to go to training.
And their daily fees, yeah.
Uh,
Their daily fees.
Right.
Yeah. But all the travel expenses. So I know other
Are they gonna,
firefighters.
are they gonna be able to bring this training back to the county?
Yes.
I
and
mean,
no-
are you gonna kind of train the trainers or what?
So it depends on what classes they take. Some of them that may have the Fire One certification already can take a trainer class, but to get the trainer class, you have to take the class first. So it's just going through the process, see what's offered out there and who's going and what they can take. So
What would be the daily fees for paying those guys? How would, which said, form of being gone?
if we paid them training, we usually pay them at the $10 an hour for training. So if they're in class 8 hours,
Okay.
but even if it wasn't train the trainer class, it's knowledge that they could bring back to the county and pass on to other firefighters.
Okay.
So like I said, just, we need to start the process of
So you're gonna check and see how many people you have interested.
have interest and look at the time frame. Hey, when can people go? And then you look at the schedule of classes. Hey, we can go the second week of August. We can apply for these classes, and they offer different classes at different times. So there may be 6 classes the second week of August, and it may be a different set of 6 classes the second week of August. And so you kind of look at when you can go versus the classes they're offering, because they don't offer the same classes every week. So that's kind of the juggling part of when can you go, what classes you want to take. I know some departments, when they send firefighters out there, they're taking a class where they have to take their bunker gear and stuff. They'll actually drive out there so they don't have to fly their gear out there. So a lot of variables, but like I said, I wanted to get started on that process to get some.
Do we have trainings taking place in county?
Yes, we do. So we had one out at the power plant last Thursday night, walk through and training on what hazards they have out there. We've been doing SCBA and search and rescue trainings throughout the county. So
What benefits is it out there versus what they can get here?
So when you go out there, you're talking top-notch instructors. They fly instructors in from all over the United States and the world to teach these classes out there. So it's something that instructor-wise, we could not match even local level in the state. So,
Okay. I'm good with looking at it.
Me too.
all right. That is all I have unless you guys have something else.
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
I've got several, most of them small things we could take care of, and then I've got the canvas scheduled to start at 9:30. A week or two ago, I had a resolution prepared for surplus from the health department that had a desk and 23 chairs. And then Chastity did end up taking the desk, so I've got another one ready with just the chairs, if you're ready to pass that. And I know Amanda had sent an email out to all county departments, and she didn't find anybody that was interested in them. So if you're ready for that, we could pass that one.
Are these folding chairs or are they regular?
No, they're,
Just a-
she sent a picture.
Okay, okay.
Just a kind of a medium chair kind of thing.
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 2024-33, a declaration of surplus property for 23 meeting chairs from the health department.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next thing I had was we did get an invoice from JRK Portable Welding for the railings and the work on the back steps. I wanted to present that for your approval before we did anything with it.
Are those working out good?
They look very nice. I think you did a good job on them.
What was the overage for? What?
He's saying that it wouldn't fit the
No, I'm just
new steps.
Do you remember there's a section of those stairs that come up from the west side of the building and connect? Those did not line up, nor could the old railing system be used. And another part of the railing system also did not line up to the way it teardropped down. So it had to be built new instead of reusing those old parts.
So he rebuilt new steps or new rails.
Correct.
What do you think? I make a motion, we pay the J.R. Kerr in the amount of $8,250. It was overage and additional time came in at $4,500 more than what the original bid was.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next thing I had was sometime a few weeks ago, we did the voting delegates for the K-Camp annual meeting. And on that one, we had Jim as the voting delegate and Jason as the alternate. I now have the forms for K-Work.
Okay.
And I didn't know if you wanted to go the same way on that. That is a combined meeting. It'll be half an hour of K-Camp and half an hour of K-Work.
It's fine. Right.
Whatever, however you want to do it, I don't care.
Okay.
So if that's all right with you, I think we should have a motion then to make those appointments.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Jim as our voting delegate and Jason as our alternate for the K-Works meeting.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then there's a line for chairman to sign, since you're vice, you want to sign off on that, and I'll fill everything out and get it turned in. And then the other thing that goes on while we're there for those meetings is KAC has voting delegates. And on theirs, they have a voting delegate, a first alternate, and a second alternate. And they did theirs on an online form this year, and they were wanting to get those in. So I went ahead and filled it out with Jim as voting, Jason as first alternate, and I put myself as second alternate. But I just wanted to confirm if that was okay with you guys. If not, I can go back online and change something. But if it is, we could use a motion to make those appointments too.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then the next thing I had is Janet sent her reports over. And this time of year, there's more than just the average report she does every quarter. There is an interest report for the quarter and year to date. There is a delinquent tax report, and those are the ones she typically sends every quarter. Along with that, she sent the reconciliation of 2023 taxes, where it goes through and shows the different tax rolls and what the amounts were, and then what was collected and what's outstanding, and all that balances back out. There is a form along with that she signed that saying that she has done the reconciliation, and it shows the outstanding taxes. And then there's also a form for, let's see, what is this one? Uncollected personal property tax warrants that have been sent for collection. So she wanted you guys to review all that, and then I think it would probably be appropriate to have some type of motion to approve or accept her reports. I did notice the interest is up quite a bit this year over what it's been before, so we've made a little more on interest too.
Do we need to read this front page or
I don't know. I mean,
you wanna look at that?
I will put the
I've got it
numbers.
on here.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll put the numbers in the minutes too.
okay. Well, I'll make a motion, we approve this interest report, quarter endings report from our treasurer.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Say aye.
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 All right, so with that, we've still got a little over 10 minutes until we're supposed to start the canvas. If you've got any other things we could take care of quickly, we'll let you know. Well, I already mentioned it, but you will need to appoint a third canvasser since Danny's not here today.
Sean, would you want to be a third canvasser for the voting force since Danny's not here? Okay.
I think probably you want to do a motion to appoint him.
I'll make a motion to appoint Sean West to be our third candidate for canvassing our votes today.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With it published to start at 9:30, I really don't think we should start it early.
Okay. Sean, you got something, or you, Jesse, got 10 minutes? We got 10 minutes.
Jesse probably wrap up.
Okay.
Jesse's right here.
Okay.
Morning, Commissioners. Jesse Walton, Operations Director of the Road Department. They sent the cost summary by location to you. Service requests from the beginning of the year to current. 494 was created, 463 are closed, 31 are currently open. Service requests for the week, 3 were created, 1 is open. Activity cost by location, from 427 of this year, the tasks were 977 of 1275. That comes to 77% of the roads completed. South Shop, it says that they worked on 3 high priority culverts that need replaced. We actually got 2 of those done just due to what we ran into pulling those out. We've discussed road issues and ditching. Craig worked on 2 of the roll-off trucks from the landfill. We got those up and going and back to them, so they're back in service. The cat grader that we have, our old one, the 12H, we're getting fuel back in the oil again. We went through and diagnosed that we just need to replace all the injectors on it. They're just wore out. And so we're going to go ahead and replace those injectors on that grader so we can get it back out and going. In the north shop, we had blades out all week. We had mowers out all week. 1 mow tractor all week. And for at least one out of the, we had 2 tractors running for at least 1 or 2 days. I think 2 days up there this week. We assisted in changing these culverts down here in the south area, getting those in. Pleasanton, they were getting their salt spreader up and going. We had to buy some parts to get the chain drive to work, so it'll work for the season. They worked on their chipper and distributor. They got their truck ready so we can use it on the 1350 road project if we need water for compaction out there on that road. We did meet with the engineer this week on Wednesday out at the 900 road project. I believe that we sent you the rundown of what's going to go on. So we're going to hopefully on Thursday, if it doesn't rain anymore, we'll be pouring mud on Thursday and get that in the ditch so we can get that going. Get that project moving forward again. We did meet with.
Leaving the tubes the way they are right now.
Yep, he said everything should be fine the way it is.
He's signing off on this.
He's going to sign off on it. I asked him to send us that detailed description of how he wants us to proceed with this so that it's in writing from him, that we have that from him. I've expressed my concerns to Sean about it. And I figure if he's going to sign off on it, he can take the heat when it floats again. I'm not happy about it, but then again, I'm not an engineer and hired out to do that. So
Are we going to hold them down anyway when we're pouring?
well, so that was the other thing about putting material on top of it so we can hold them down. We're going to rent a compactor, vibrating compactor for our excavators again so that we can get that dirt compacted in on the west side and hopefully get some dirt on the top side of that before we pour mud on Thursday. See if we can keep that from moving any more further to the west on that. So I visited with Todd. We're going to take every precaution we can so that
Any way we can put a hoe on it or anything?
we can put a bucket on it to help hold it down. That's one thought we had too, because we got to get this project done and quit messing around with it and get it out of here.
For sure.
So, yeah, we're going to take every precaution we can so we don't keep running into problems with this on there. So, that's why we asked him for that detailed report on that.
Okay.
We did meet with Mr. Ost also on Wednesday about starting the road project and what we can do over there to help him continue to keep his operation up and going. Been real workable. We'll be able to get some clay from him on a couple different spots on his place. So that project, hopefully we'll start moving forward with it here Tuesday or Wednesday, seeing how saturated the ground is over there when we get going on that one. So, okay. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't.
It came after you built your agenda that we did make another contact on that down tree and make arrangements to remove that.
Oh, yes. Down tree up here on,
Not this week.
yeah, on 1095.
I would like to see, Jesse, we got the price lists on the gravel from
Yes.
both quarries. I'd like to see they're not written out to me to where I understand exactly They don't call it the same at each location.
Correct.
Can you guys give us detailed information?
Yep.
You know,
We'll
so
build
we
you
can
a
compare them
spreadsheet.
some comparing apples to apples on
Yep.
prices.
That would be good.
Yeah, I went through
That
that.
would be good.
Because I can't make, can you? I mean, I can't make heads or tails of it. I mean, what they call, each of them call it different.
Yep, we'll put the material down that we use most common from them. That way you got
Compare
a,
prices is
Yep.
what I'd like to see.
yep, no problem.
Okay. That's all I have.
I did spend 3 days this week with the blade operators we have and the other operators we have, see where their skill levels are, what can we improve on. Let's help them be successful in their job. So I have spent quite a bit of time this last week in the field with them just to make sure that we can keep hands moving forward and be successful in what they do and where we can improve to help them out. If we need to spend more time with certain items and certain ways of doing things, that's what I'm leaning forward to right now. So
Sounds good, Jesse.
thank you.
Thank you.
You got 4 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we could do?
Guess we can sign time sheets. Go 4 minutes, can't we?
Yep.
Appointed shown to be the third candidate.
Spreadsheet. Scheme.
Easy to wait.
That's all. Even though it's a job. It did. Justice scheme. Spreadsheet. Why do like no with the spreadsheet and then they set up two for the other. Quarterly. Different places. And that paper is
We'll start here. We gotta review some numbers here and then we'll go across. And then we'll chat. I'm showing 9:30 if you're ready to get.
I'm ready.
So the first thing I need would be a motion to recess from the Board of Commissioners meeting and to reconvene as the Board of Canvassers.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and Sean went to grab his jacket and then he can come sit up here and go through this stuff too.
So do we need to officially appoint him?
I got that one in there a few
Okay.
minutes ago, so we've got him appointed as the third
All right,
canvasser.
perfect.
All right, so just a little background to get started on this. Some of the laws changed in the last few years on write-ins on what we have to do. Now, for anything, a county office or higher, you have to file a affidavit of write-in candidacy in order for your write-in votes to be counted. There are also affidavits filed at the state and federal levels that get filed with the Secretary of State. So at the local level, I just printed a sheet like this for my write-in boards and told them on those two races, the only votes they had to count were the people that are on here. Now, when you're counting write-ins, you're pretty lenient with spellings. You try to go by the voter's intent. If you can tell who they were trying to vote for, go ahead and give them credit for it. I can tell you before we get into the numbers, none of these got anywhere close to winning. So I didn't go back and review every name they looked at on those reports to make sure that it should have been counted. I know at least one I took off because they'd kind of separated it. Just the way it was like a first name only, which is still possible to count. But I didn't get real picky about that because none of them were anywhere close enough to win anyway. So I've recorded the votes that the write-in boards did. For president, I got this list from the Secretary of State that any of these people written in for president had to be counted. We only had one of those groups of people on here written in. There were 4 write-in votes for Jill Stein and Ware Rudolph for president and vice president. So they recorded those, but we didn't have any of the other names. The other thing to talk about on write-ins, which we had 3 different townships where no one was on the ballot for township offices. So we have a lot of write-ins in those townships. At the township level, you count all the write-ins. There's no affidavit that has to be filed. And the way the rules are written, this is off the Secretary of State's election standards book. Name written in for an unqualified candidate. So for a township office, this could be someone who didn't live in that township. They would not be qualified. But the comment here is qualifications are determined after the canvass. There will be a vacancy in the office if the winning candidate does not take the oath of office or if they're an unqualified candidate and they attempt to take the oath. Then they're declared ineligible and a vacancy exists. We don't know what the final numbers on that will be right now on those write-ins because we've still got a bunch of provisional ballots that have to be counted, and I'll have to have a board this afternoon look at the write-ins on those. As it stands right now, on one of the races, if we were done counting write-ins for that race, it would be an unqualified candidate that won. So what would happen is that office is going to be vacant because that person is not able to take office. And then on township offices, the commissioners appoint someone. Usually what we do is try to talk to people in that township that either have done it before or might be interested and get someone to agree to it. And then I'd bring that in and have you appoint them.
Okay.
But like I said, we won't know those final numbers until all of the provisionals are tallied and write-ins are done on them. So with that, a few things I wanted you guys to review. The first one would be the results of our audit. So we'll bring this around where you can see it. So the audit that we have to do after each election, and that print's very small, but the Secretary of State sends us a list of races to audit, and then we randomly select precincts that contain those races. So for this election, the first one they had us audit was U.S. House of Representatives. The second one was Kansas Senate District 12. They always do a federal and a state race. And then on a local race, they gave me a list of possible local races. And I have to take that list and go in order that they listed them. And I'm supposed to go until I find one of those races on our ballots that actually has a contest. In this case, we had no county races that had contests. There was only one candidate on the ballot for each race. So I just went to the first race on their list, which was Commission District 2. So what I did, and these are only the election day results. So the first one we reviewed would be U.S. House District 2 in North Potosi. So here's your House 2, and if you come across and find North Potosi, and we are only going to look at election day results, which would be 2 columns, the one with the name and then the next column advance, because that's the advance that was counted on election day. So for that race, I have Nancy Boyda with 87.
Yes.
So you would have to add those 2 numbers together. I have John Hauer with 17.
Okay.
And I have Derek Schmidt with 320. All right, the next race we have to look at is Kansas Senate District 12. And for that one, we want Liberty Township. If you'll notice before we get into it, in the third column there is one that was an advance counted after election. So I will not include that one in the totals I give you.
Okay.
For Colleen Lang, I have 55.
Right.
And for Karen Tyson, I have 414. And then the third race we need to look at is Commission District 2 for South Potosi. So South Potosi is going to be over here. And we're only looking at Allison's numbers on that because she's the only candidate on the ballot. And again, we have one after election day, which would not count. So we're looking at those 2 numbers. And the total I have here is 289. So that is one of the things I have to do is review those audit numbers with you. I also had to send a copy into the Secretary of State on the day we did the audit. And I have to wait and get an email back from them saying that they've approved our audit and we're okay to canvass. And I have a copy of that email here where they said we're good to go ahead. So that part's taken care of. And the whole purpose of the audit is just verifying that our machine counted correctly. So we had a board come in, it was a bipartisan board, pulled in 3 elected workers from just different precincts and had both parties there. They counted through them. It was about a 4-hour process that day, I think, to get through all these. So it took a while, but we did get to the number that we were supposed to see. So everything checked out. All right. Now, I do think it would be a good thing for us to just review totals on races. And again, these are not going to count the write-ins. This is just going to be people that were on the ballot, because the write-in is a whole different process. So just starting at the top, and I believe these are in the same order that you have them on your sheet. So we're going to be looking at the total clear over at the right for each candidate. For president, I have Oliver with 12, Trump with 3,988, Harris with 842, Kennedy with 53. And then Jill Stein was a write-in, so that's a separate part. The next race, U.S. House 2, Boyda with 905, Hauer 169, Schmidt 3737. State Senate, I have Lang with 634, Tyson 4,069. State Rep District 4, Rick James 3866. State Rep District 9, Fred Gardner, 439. Commission 2, Allison Hamilton, 1,061. Commission 3, Jim Johnson, 1,242. County Clerk, David Lamb, 4,458. Treasurer, Joni Reed, 4,430. Register of Deeds, Christy Schmitz, 4,485. Attorney, Justin Meeks, 4,347. Sheriff, James Akes, 4,470. And then the next thing we get into is township races. And I'm going to have to go back and forth between two sheets here because you will find trustee and below that treasurer, and they print in separate lists for me on here. So Blue Mound trustee, I have Yates, 180. Treasurer, I have Beth, 194. Then it drops to Centerville Township. Trustee Whitcomb, 234. Treasurer Connor, 229. Liberty should be next. I have, oh, okay. All right, for Liberty, I have trustee Dunlop, 449. Treasurer Hines, 434. And then I'm not sure, what township do you have next? Lincoln. Okay, Lincoln. I have trustee Van Vlack, 1126. Treasurer Sire, 1132. And then do you have Mound City?
Yep.
All right, Mound City, I have trustee Schmitz, 652. Treasurer Wood, 659.
Okay.
And then I'm guessing you have Paris next. All right, Paris, I have trustee Self, 252. And where's my Paris treasurer? Peterson, 248.
Yes.
And then do you have Potosi?
Potosi, yes.
Trustee Cox, 756. And treasurer Ellis, 770. And then I believe we'd go to Scott.
Yep.
No candidate on the ballot, so those are all write-ins. And then, so I have nothing to report there on at this time. The next one I have is Sheridan. It is also all write-ins, so I have nothing on this report. After that, I have Stanton. It is also all write-ins, so there's nothing on here. And then I get to Valley, and I have trustee Ann Garrett with 40, treasurer Wayne Cox with 41. And then we have judges. So on my report, I just have the position of the judges. I don't have the names, but it starts with Court of Appeals. And it's position 4.
Okay.
And these will be yeses and nos. So if you're okay with it, I will just read the two numbers. Yeses will be first. Position 4, 2919, 1359. Position 6, 2935, 1355. Position 8, 2643, 1612. Position 9, 2619, 1633. Position 10, 2622, 1619. Position 12, 2648, 1586. Position 14, 2901, 1338. Then it goes to district court judges, which starts with, they're all 6th district, and then I believe it's listed as divisions at the end of it.
Right.
So starting with Division 2, 3297, 1076.
Yes.
Number 3, $3,096, $11.81. Number 4, $3,037, $12.19. Number 5, $2,965, $12.66. And then number 6, $28.96, $13.17. So if you're good with all those numbers, the next thing I would need, let me get back to my notes. Apparently I didn't take out some of last time's information here. Give me just a second. So I would need a motion to approve the post-election audit and election results.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then the next thing I've got are provisionals. We had a lot of provisionals on this election. So we go through, Darcy and I both worked on this and spent hours on it. We have to look at every provisional envelope. Excuse me. And part of that envelope is they fill out a new registration. It's on one side of the envelope. We have to review that along with what ballot style should be in that envelope and make a decision on whether or not they should count. So after reviewing all of them, we came up with 97 that should be counted, 12 that need to be partially counted. And the reasons on those are going to be things like someone voted in the wrong precinct, and different precincts have different township officers. Sometimes they have different commissioners. Sometimes they have different state representatives. So those will have to be hand counted, and we cannot count those races that were the wrong race for the precinct they should vote in. So we have 12 of those. And of that 97 of the yeses, 72 were simply address changes. People hadn't re-registered. 7 were name changes. 5 were name and address changes. 11 were poll worker or election office error. And most common thing on that is poll workers looked for them and didn't find them in the poll book, and actually they were there. And then I think we had one that we had entered the address wrong in our system, so the address was not correct in the poll book, so the poll workers made them do a provisional. And then we had 2 people who had been issued advance ballots, but they did not return the advance ballots and showed up at the poll and voted. So since their advance ballots didn't come back, we can still count their vote on election day. And that left me with 67 that we're recommending not be counted. Of that 67, there were 64 people who were not registered in Linn County that showed up to vote. So you've got to be registered. Registration closes 3 weeks before the election. So we can't count those. And then there were 3 who did not have their ID when they showed up to vote. There is a provisional vote receipt that we have available and try to give them at the polling places that lets them know if the reason they're provisional, it lets them know several things. But one of the things on there is if the reason they had to do a provisional was that they didn't have their ID, if they would bring me a copy of their ID by this morning when the canvass starts and it showed the canvass date on there, then we could still count their vote. The 3 that were on there for that did not bring me IDs. So I have that 67 that we should not count. So when we get to those, and all those envelopes are over in the office, we'll go over there here in just a couple of minutes. We will not even open those 67 envelopes. They will never be opened. They will just get sealed up the way they are. We have already gone through and updated registrations in the system and scanned the registration side of their envelope. So we have their record and they are now registered, but their votes wouldn't count for this election. So if that all makes sense to you guys, I would then need a motion to accept my recommendation to not count 67 provisional ballots, partially count 12 ballots, and to count the remaining 97 ballots.
That's my motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 And you get to vote too, Sean, as a member of the.
I did.
Okay. All right, so that's all I really had to go through while we're here. You can, if you wanted to see how many write-ins came in on those commission races, it's on that sheet also. Like I said, none of them were close to winning, but there will be some more, I'm sure, on these provisionals, so those are not final totals yet. With that, we need to go over to the office and open 97 envelopes and run them through the scanner. The 12 that are going to be partial counts, if it's okay with the three of you, I would rather not even open them yet until I get a board put together this afternoon to count them, because we're going to have to look at each envelope and what it says to count and not count on that envelope at the time they're counting them. I can show you those envelopes when we're there, but that would be my preference, is to not even open them until I have a board sitting there to count them.
I'm good with that. You guys?
So with that, if you want to come across to the back room there by my office, we can work on the next part. And anyone that wants to come along is welcome to come over there too.
I've never been in there. I want to see where they want that for. Like, what is Jamie proposing? I bet you someone. As I said, it's a order. Hearing sound that's strong. terms begin the second Monday in January. That's true. I know, Jim's gonna, that's go to. These covers? But you did that. Just check. Okay. There's the hash brown from the oven. Okay. I love you. All right. Maybe she just wake up. Oh. What? Started. Okay, everybody is doing the freaking president Trump stance. I know. It's gonna be like, I love it. Yeah. I was like, yes. More than you know. Joe. I guess that he's gonna. Oh. June. Well, I think that first. Oh, I'm saying. But I'm like, very interesting. Yeah. So. We appreciate you using the men's bathroom.
What's that?
We appreciate you using.
Wouldn't use.
All right, so the only thing I have left to finish the ambulance part today is just need a motion to approve the election abstract with the results of the provisional ballots, and then adjourn the Board of Canvassers and reconvene the Board of Commission meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, so with that, I will put a board together to do the hand counts and the write-ins this afternoon. And I'll prepare a new copy of the abstract with those on there and bring it back next week for signature. And that should wrap everything up.
Yeah, I guess we go with public comment. Do we have any public comment? Guess then we'll close public comment. Sean?
Sean West, Public Works Administrator. Jesse talked to you about meeting with Chad and the information we sent out on 900 Road. The rock prices that I sent to you, Joyce advised me that Whitaker normally gets updated in February. So if there's a possibility, we know Ham's already been updated for 2025. If there's a possibility of change, it's going to be in February, but I reached out and I didn't get an answer last week.
I think what we're looking for there is just like a spreadsheet with what we use from each place, comparing the rock, right,
Compare the price of the rock and
of each one.
Apples to apples.
Yeah.
You know,
to know exactly what they call each rock, so we know being charged for road rock each place or
okay.
whatever we're buying.
We'll look at it and pull it apart. Mark Hagan is working on the Parker Senior Center, stated he'd reach out to me this week with any questions to try to get that documentation up. Jason Weber's coming in at 11:15 to talk to you about HVAC county-wide and what the concerns and emergencies are and what we'll need to plan for financially. Jacob Coulter should be coming in just a little after 11. I think we have Christy Schmidt at 11, but Jacob's going to come in and talk to you about Queens Road. He and I spoke. He's got some concerns about the possibility of moving it over to the state because the state's limited funding and where they draw their funding from. I'll get it more into that more when he gets here. But your original request of me was to try to work with them to joint the project. Well, there's some limitations on their behalf because they can't spend money on something that they don't own. So we'll look at the options with it and try to pick the best path going forward to accomplish the mission that you're looking at. Straight line striping, on your request for an estimate, what they told me to do was to use the Wall Street estimate to basically estimate any projects we would like to do. But because of the curves, like 1095, the nature of the curves and some of the difficulties in the road, that is merely an estimate, and the best estimate he could tell us to use for a number to plan for those projects, because he would have to quote each one of those projects individually.
Did you look at just a center line only?
He will do the center line only for us and give us a number for that as well. I tried to pull that apart, but he hasn't given me that number yet.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to see, just a center line only.
Now, when you say center line only, do you want a double or a single?
If they'll do a double, we'll just,
I'd like to do it the double like we normally do, but just put the center line in.
Okay.
Just mark it, not have the sidewalk.
I mean, because And that's based off of the feedback that I think we've been given, that the edges of the road are going to crumble first and that the white line's not going to last, but the center line will last longer than anything on those chip and seal roads.
This is,
That's why
this is true, and you can also either paint them, at 18 mils, you can paint them more often, or you can go up to 21 mils with the glass beading in it and paint them less often with a thicker paint.
so are we going to get,
I'll get you a
trying to
price.
get us a per mile pricing on?
I'll get you a price for both of those for double center line.
Okay.
Okay. Mower bids that we've agreed to in the past, are going out this week. You'll see those published. Compactors, the last two, cities were Lacine and, Pleasanton. They were unable to meet with you this week. They were both able to be here next week. So I slotted both of them to come in and speak to you next week, to try to finish that up. CareCon scope of services, I made contact with Tony, told him your concerns, asked him directly and sent him out the questions, that you'd asked me about why this has gone up, whether or not it was more questions from the state or whether it was just underbidding on their end. He was going to reach out to the project manager on it, get a definitive answer, and then reach back out to me, but he was unable to do it last week. He will continue to work on that, but he understood our concerns that if we are underbidding projects and then elevating those projects back up, that's a concern for us because we've already paid for a bid on that project.
Right.
Software, on the park, Sherry's working with the software vendor. The software vendor is telling her that she needs to upload all the data. We're having some discussions with them about the data and who should be responsible for uploading it. Also, we have grass seed. She's bid out grass seed to cover up the lagoons and the dirt work that was there and cover the erosion control, the K31. She's been able to get bids on it, and the cheapest bid was there in Lacine, and it was almost half of what we were looking at other places in the county. So we're going to go ahead and purchase the grass seed at the first opportunity, get it down, and then we'll try to mat cover it or hold it down for the spring as soon as we possibly can. I don't have the information. When we talk about the dock and the dock parts, we're looking at the whole of this dock assembly was given to us. So we're looking at the cost of the parts to put it together in the configuration that we need it in to make it work at a little over $5,000. In order to do that, we would be using volunteer labor and then pulling it out ourselves and using volunteer labor to put it back in. We would like to wait until Sherry comes in on the 16th to know where the park is this year and how much we have, where our bottom line is before we make that recommendation. So basically, you've got the numbers, but we're not going to make a final recommendation.
$5,000 on parts.
Let me pull up the,
300, I think,
Okay.
what I've seen.
I think you're correct. I think you should have an estimate on it.
Okay.
Christie's going to come over and talk to you about the courthouse and the signage that they and the Historical Society are ready for us to put in over there. Our part is just putting it in. Their part is the planning the purchasing of the signage and the planning for the flower beds and things around it that we won't be involved in later. I did look at it and I spoke to both her and Teresa Miller. I believe they've now come to a conclusion of what is best and what their one single recommendation is, and I would go along with it. It's not going to be anything for us to slap it up, get new post out there and get the signage up the way they want it so they can start in with whatever decorations, flower or rock gardens they want to put around it, but it will be appropriately spaced so that they can keep our mowing down to a minimum and work around it.
Okay.
And the last thing I had was we're down 2 in the park, a marina clerk and a part-time maintenance worker. We're down 2 in the road shops and 1 administratively. I'm going to look at our county websites and make sure that all of those have been uploaded and the job descriptions for those have been uploaded. If you don't have any other concerns, I'm going to post just a generic advertisement for positions opening with the county newspaper, and then I'll turn around and have those listed in detail on our county website.
Okay.
Until Wildlife and Parks or Christie comes in, do you have any questions for me?
What about the compactor here in Mound City? Is it back to working yet, or?
I was told I'm gonna get this wrong. A resistor was ordered and it should be in today or tomorrow by Matt Kelly, but that resistor is what was causing the outage on the button assembly itself. So yes, the parts have been ordered and they should be here within the next day or two and put in.
Okay.
And then we also, this morning, I got a call and the switch went down in Parker. So we are sending a technician to Parker as well, hoping to have it up and running before their scheduled opening tomorrow.
I just emailed Christie to see if she could come on over soon.
And Jason will be here at 11:15.
And as I said, she'll show you the plan, but from our original discussions and everything,
Yep.
I am completely fine with what their final outcome and their agreement is not going to affect anything we're going to do. And long-term, it's going to allow them to build on their plan and it will not affect anything that we do out there. So I'm 100% on board with what she's going to tell you today.
Okay.
You know, the commission already sent it back to economic development. So we were supposed to take that to the historical society to vote on a concept and all of that, and it never happened. So I'm all for the signs. Obviously, I've been presenting on them for 4 years now, or approved, but just having one historical society be okay with the signage and like what's going up there, that's not what the commission had already voted on, and sent it back to the historical society and economic development. I'm just saying, there's a little bit of like the commission already voted to send it back to get the concept, but then it sounds to me like, well, I know that didn't happen because I haven't been there. And then secondly, now we're presenting again. I got Teresa already been in once about it. When Teresa came in, that's when the commission said, let's approve and figure out what one.
So you're saying one economic.
But you're talking about the signage for the entire county, correct?
Talking about the signage that Christie is about to come in and talk about that's going on the front steps of the courthouse, where the current sign up there is.
Okay.
Now, who's bringing it? Which historical society is bringing it to us? Is it?
It's between Linn County and Christie. And so also that poses a question of budget, where what, if that's coming out of Linn County's that's fine, and I guess she can put her name back on it. But if it's not, it's coming out of the commission, it's coming out of the courthouse, the sign needs to be approved, and it was supposed to go back under economic development. I think it's important that we all are in agreement on what it's gonna say, what it's gonna look like, the type of material. How much is it gonna cost? Looking at our label, you already have one art sign out there that we wanted to be consistent with the quality of that type of signage. So,
Commissioners, if you'll stand up, you can see the two signs.
I know, I looked at them when we come by.
Thoughts about them, but they are right there at the edge of the sidewalk. They're both wooden posts and wooden sign.
We can talk about them when she gets over and see what.
I think I saw a wall.
Okay.
Yeah, she emailed back that she's on her way, so. She should be here momentarily. She is.
You have to take your hood off. We can't tell who you are. But Christie, you want to come up and explain what's going on?
Christy Smith's Register of Deeds, but I'm not here on Register of Deeds business. I'm here because Sean asked me to come over and talk to you all about the signs in the garden that's going out front. The public's been real happy with what's been going on around the courthouse with the gardens in the front and the back. And they were wanting to replace those old wooden signs that are rotting out front, and they had gotten in touch with the Historical Society and ordered new signs. And I don't like where they, somebody came over and put some stakes in the front yard of where they wanted to put the signs. And I absolutely do not want those signs to go there. It would be very obtrusive and obstructive to the courthouse. But this little garden plot that I handed out to you is something the master gardeners came up with. And it was supposed to be like the next phase of the garden. And it's only going to cost around $862. Of course, the price will probably go up a little bit since the time that they had prepared this little diagram, but that would keep the maintenance from having to mow around those signs and stuff. They would become a part of the garden. And so I guess I'm just here to ask your permission to have.
So do the master gardeners come in and take care of the flower beds? They pull the weeds,
Yes. They replace plants that die. And then, of course, I help, but I'm not a master gardener. But I had gotten, about 3 years ago is when I got in touch with the extension office and came over and talked to you guys about the gardens and everything. And they most of the masters come from Miami County, because it's the Miami County Courthouse that inspired me to have something done with our landscaping around our courthouse because it's such a beautiful building. So they came and created the diagrams and picked out the plants and such. And then there are master gardeners that do reside here in Linn County, and they come over whenever I ask. I said the weeds need to be
Now,
pulled.
who's put the markers out there for where the signs going?
I think the Historical Society did that.
Historical Society.
Yeah.
So, and we're not collaborating on the signs or anything along those lines. You're talking about the gardens around the sign area.
They're going to put new signs up, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, we're going to replace the old wooden signs that are out front and rotting. But Sean asked me to come to see what you guys thought about it.
You want to have Ally come up and talk about what she knows about it? I guess I'm confused.
I mean, I haven't seen the signs. Sean went over and looked at them.
I'm confused a little bit here.
I'm sorry. So it's the master gardeners that got in touch
Okay,
and wanted new signs so that we could do this.
right.
And I mean, I really, I'm just kind of a ramrod for the gardens and such. But
Well, I'm not against doing what we're doing here, but I guess it looks like to me is what I feel that maybe I don't, Ally, can you help us out on this a little bit? Because I tell you what, I'm a little confused on what's happening here. So
I'd like the signs replaced. It's not that I don't, but.
step up here and talk, son.
Yeah.
So that's,
So I would like the signs replaced. I'm 100% on board with that. They've been, needing to be replaced for quite some time now. But do we have any artwork? Do we know what they look like? Did you just say that they were already done?
yes.
Because the commission had previously sent that back to the Economic Development Board with all the historical societies, and we were going to come up with a concept. And so that never really happened, which I guess before it goes up, wouldn't you guys like to see what it looks like? Are you going to approve that?
are you in agreement with this,
we haven't
Christie,
approved
what
any
she
I
signed?
know, that's why I'm confused. I didn't know.
Yeah,
They would have already it sounds to me like they already have them printed. Looks like they're already going in. And to me, it's just
Yeah,
kind
they're
of
not-
like,
Yeah, they're not going in yet because I'm
Confusion.
absolutely not in agreement with those posts that are out there. And
and the,
this is the plan that I had that I'm in agreement with.
So
Are
you're
you against,
talking,
Christie, if we send this to the Economic Development and let them look at it too and then see, and like,
I don't care. Like I said, I'm just here.
and let's do the very best we can do before we do it. I mean,
Well, sure, yeah. And like, Sean and I have looked at the placement. No, wait, that's not going to work where those stakes are at all. But they will fit into this garden where, like I said before, maintenance would not have to mow around them or anything because it'll be a part of the garden instead of just out there in the yard.
I just know that we had talked about having some sort of signage that would be conducive, like that would go along with what the Gordon Park sign is already.
Right. And then the
The
Gordon-
quality and
The Gordon Parks sign is a part of this layout here. And that'll keep
north.
them.
it's in here.
Is this
Okay, so
Gordon?
this is the courthouse and this is the front walk. So yeah, north, or no, that'd be south. North, this is street here.
This is the street,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Gordon Parks
No,
already
this
there.
one's Gordon Parks.
Okay. And then we're
What do you
adding
think?
2 in.
Yeah, we're replacing the two that are there.
Okay. And then these are already done, and they're located where to look at.
At the, Sean, did you look at the signs over there at the museum?
Yes, I did.
You have pictures.
I do not have pictures. These are black and white metal structured signs, a lot like informational signs that you find, except their colors are black and white, and they are the same size as the signs that are up there, so they could be screwed in on the back of the same size. They are not going to have any historical looking wood. They are going to be metal information signs.
I would have just assumed that anything that was going on the courthouse grounds would have been approved by the commission before it was installed. So
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Because it's not installed, but I need to find out what you guys want to do.
What do you think? Let's go to the Economic Development and see what they think. To look, Are you good with that, or
That's fine.
and let them look?
Are these perennials or are they going to have to be replanted every
Oh,
year?
no, they're just like the ones we have in, they come
Okay.
up every year. Every now and then we'll put in like impatiens or something that's real cheap and
Right.
it
Okay.
comes up beautiful. And
To where we can make sure we're doing everything all at once. I mean, sign.
Right, right. That's
Would
why
that
I'm
be
here.
better to,
That's why I'm here, because
is there other things that you see that you'd like to, besides this right here?
in the future, but it's pretty overwhelming when you get gardens of the size that we have, and then we're wanting to do another one. It's kind of we need some community involvement. I'd like to get some of the schools involved, 4-H maybe, or, you know, the little groups, young people that need points for community service. or-
Scholarships.
So would this be a good deal to use, let the economic development to take and see if they can reach out to?
That's why I'm here. I'm asking you
Okay,
guys.
that's fine.
Well, let's see if Chastity would move. I think they're having a meeting tomorrow. Economic development is. Is she here? Sean, is Chastity here?
Sorry,
Is Chastity here?
I mean, walking through.
I've been amazed with the master gardeners on those first two phases of the gardens, how accurate their estimate was for their budget. And it was just amazing. But like I said, I'd like to get more community involvement in helping us with the work. that's
Chastity, you
involved.
want to come up to the podium? We've got something for you, I think.
Let's have it. Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good.
This is a proposal for the next phase of the courthouse gardens.
Okay.
And it shows the plants and budget, pictures of the plants. You can have this.
Okay,
And the reason I'm here is because the master gardeners got in touch with the Historical Society and had new signs made to replace the wooden ones that are out front of the courthouse.
okay,
Sean went over and looked at them. They're metal signs. They're black and white. They're informational. They talk about I guess they say the same things that the signs that we have up there say.
okay.
But I'm just here because they had planted some stakes out in the yard and that's not a good thing at all, where they've got them proposed to be placed. So
And then
there's.
she's looking at a flower bed.
This is the existing Gordon Parks sign,
Okay,
and these are the two signs that need replaced.
okay. But what were the signs that you were just discussing that are not in a good place?
The ones to replace these, they came out and put some stakes in the yard.
Oh, okay,
And we don't want them there.
okay.
They're out in the middle of the yard. We're wanting them to put them in. We're
Within
wanting
the
to,
flower bed.
we want
Wanting
to
the signs.
incorporate them into the flower bed so there's less maintenance
Okay.
for
So-
mowing and such.
Chastity, we had set up a subcommittee of the Economic Development Committee
Okay,
to approve budgets and things and work with the historical societies on maintaining some cohesion throughout the county. We'd like for them to look at these plans.
To make sure everybody's on board of what
Okay.
we're doing and where we're putting it. And she's even talking, getting the 4-H involved for points for different things that they can help us with this flower bed is what you got to help me, Christie.
I know, yeah. I
I'm lost
want more
there.
community involvement. I want the high schools, maybe the horticulture classes, 4-H, or any of the young people that need some kind of community service, points and
correct.
such.
Mhm.
So,
All right,
And you have a meeting tomorrow, right?
yes,
What time is it?
8:30.
8:30 here?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Is that, we'll get started from there and see where we go?
sure,
Okay.
Perfect.
take it forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank
thanks.
you. Thanks,
Thank
Christie.
y'all.
I think I saw him back
Jason
there.
here?
or, well, I don't know, Jacob, yeah.
Jacob, you want to come up?
I haven't-
How are you today?
All right. How are the commissioners?
Doing good.
Just state your name, Jacob, and who you're with.
Jacob Coulter, Kansas Wildlife and Parks Area Manager.
And we're talking about the Queens Road.
Yes, sir. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here, I guess, on request that Sean had asked that I come here. So I don't have an initial spiel other than to
Right.
just have, answer questions.
I'll catch us up to where he can jump in. Originally, your request were for us to make the road safe. We did that with our engineers, and then to look at opportunities and options for the roadway. The roadway can be moved over onto Wildlife and Parks ground because the
Can't be.
can,
Can.
because the roadway or the property is titled less the roadway. So there doesn't have to be a lot of engineering and surveying, as long as they and we agree the property title is less the roadway, so there, it doesn't matter.
Our road can be any place on your property.
Exactly. It doesn't matter where it's at. Now, originally, when you asked me to look at this, we were talking about a joint project between us and Wildlife and Parks. We have since learned there are some limitations about what they can do. They can do some in-kind labor, but they can't put money on a roadway that isn't theirs. So they can't throw state dollars down on a piece of property that they don't own. So then the discussion came up as to whether or not it would be better with all the FEMA stuff we were doing and the other large roadway projects, whether or not we abandon the project and let the state take it. And you asked me to bring someone in to speak on it. And
Okay.
Jacob's going to tell you his take on that and why that may not be a good solution and what we think we want to do going on in the future. And hopefully we'll be able to pick a plan and then drive on with it, because our original plan pretty much fizzled out.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any questions before I get started? Okay, so does the county have a preference on how this thing goes from here?
We want to keep the road open.
We want to make sure the road's open for the people to use that's in the area. No, it's.
Great. We're on the same page
I thought
there.
our problem was when we started this was we couldn't move over under your ground. We was taking your ground in order to move away from the river as well.
Well, and I think it was also from, if I'm remembering correctly, it was, do we need to go ahead and move it at this time, or can we leave it open as a one lane?
Sure.
Kind of how we have it set up right now with proper signage and things of that nature to accommodate the minimal traffic that's going through there.
Correct. Yeah, so last time I stood up here, I think maybe Gary Thompson was still over there, and, concerns of liability, the minimum county road width, things like that were kind of the concerns. And so, it felt like, well, just if that's the biggest concern, then you got a couple options. You can slide it over. Can you, is there less liability associated for the county if it's deemed, minimum maintenance road,
Right.
or one lane road or something like that? Okay, now our management and maintenance burden is less, and we've advised the public that, hey, there's going to be a section here where it's not your average county road, and be aware of it. And I felt like, well, if that's the case, maybe, can you have a one way, or can you have minimum maintenance plus slide it just a little bit, then buy us a bunch of time and kind of CYA there.
And when you say buy us a bunch of time, so how far are we going to have to slide the roadway
Yeah, so,
in your estimation?
yeah,
You drive it all the time.
sure, I drive it, and I was telling Sean earlier, the rivers are active at in seasons, right? If you get a big, wet, prolonged season where the riverbank's full, slopes are saturated, things like that, and you have excess spring flooding, then, that's when the river can move a bunch in a short amount of time.
Right.
Or things are pretty average, and then the riverbank doesn't move that much at all. I mean, it's on an outside bend of a river, and the way rivers will always work is they're depositing on the inside bend, they're scouring on the outside bend. Nobody's ever going to be able to change that, so that the current is faster on the outside bend. So that's always going to be a case there. And it is up against some topography that'd be very challenging to move. There's not a, Commissioner Johnson said, we can put it anywhere. Yeah, you can kind of put it anywhere, but there's a big old slope over there that's going to stop you, at some point. So to answer your question, Jason, I don't have a timeline on what it would be, on how much time it would take. It just kind of depends on how active the river is, but it's not like it's moved a bunch. I don't know how long that road has been there and what the slope was 50 years ago, but it's probably always been relatively small. And now it's just a little bit less comfortably small, so.
If we give it to you and closed it and gave you the road, would you guarantee us that you'd just keep it open?
I wouldn't make that guarantee, I guess. It's hard to, I couldn't stand up here in good faith and say it as a guarantee. I would also say, would that option be on the table if this section of the road went through private property? Like, would we even consider, hey, we're going to vacate it and then put the burden on the landowner to maintain and repair it? No. So I work for Wildlife and Parks, but I'm coming here as just a Linn County landowner, Linn County, land manager, I guess. So it's not like we've got KDOT resources for road and maintenance and things like that. So we're going to do our job to keep our roads open. We have, 10 or 12 miles of roads that Wildlife and Parks manages that are open to the public. So, we do that where we can, but it's not an infinite resource. And if it got to where we can't, then at some point we may not be able to. We have moved roads in the past, very, very similar scenarios just east of there on 1800 Road, outside bend of Middle Creek or Big Sugar Creek, whatever creek's kind of right in there. Same thing's going on. It was our property. It was already our road though, and we just slid it over 100 foot. That'd probably be a pretty good example of abandoning a road, sliding it over, and then going back and looking and say, hey, like, how active is that site still? That would kind of give us some idea of how fast, those rivers are moving.
Okay. So I don't think we would push it off on a private owner, right? To keep a public road open.
Not if it's going clear through your property, and then goes back onto somebody else, no.
County and county, yeah, it's not a dead end road.
No.
And it transitions over to Radcliffe Road or kind of Queens. Queens kind of has a little spur on it, and then it's either renamed Radcliffe or not. I don't know who paid for what, but it looks like the county's invested substantial money in a very small portion of Radcliffe Road, which is just basically north of where we're talking about on the same thoroughfare. Anybody that'd be on Queens Road would end up on Radcliffe Road. And there's a, quarter mile section in there that's blacktop now in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So there's already been some investment for traffic flow through that part of the county. And we're not talking about those kind of dollars here. I'm no engineer. It just feels like there's some, it could be split over without over engineering, and in addition to, can this thing
And buy us more time.
buy us potentially a substantial amount of time, plus the low, road legality with liability, which I know nothing about.
Well, it sounds like to me, maybe we ought to look at, see what it'd take to
Just
move
slide
the
it
road
over.
Not that we have to do it right now, but
To put it on our project list.
You've got two major projects going right now, 900, 1350.
Right.
The engineers already told us this is not a tomorrow project, that we're safe with the barricading that we've done. So what you're looking at, with our barricade and signage out here, and the river over here, what you're looking at is trying to shift into the side of this hill. So the difficulty is going to be not only cutting what the engineer thought a safe distance would be 16 feet into the side of this hill. But then 1 to 3 sloping that back so that you don't have all of that straight fall coming down. So we may have to put in some concrete barricade, something to slope it against,
Okay.
keep it inexpensive. But if we are going to do these projects with FEMA, we're gonna recoup this money. We're looking at, over the next 3 months, talking about where we're earmarking that money. And part of it, I would highly recommend going back into the special roads, so that projects like this in the future had funding.
Okay.
So is it an emergency? Do we have to deal with it right now? No. But I would like to pick a date and say, when that money comes back in, we're gonna discuss this project and how we're gonna fund this project. And maybe even have a ballpark number for this project to discuss, so that we're not looking at each other taking wild guesses.
Right.
That slope looks a little daunting. Sean has many skills
Drawing.
scaling, and it just so just
Drawing may not
for
be
for
one
what
of
it's worth, it's not that daunting. That slope coming into that, it's not quite like that. So for what it's worth.
Not drawn to scale.
No, yeah, we didn't get that down at the bottom, but that was not quite to scale. So
Okay. So, but
there's
you're not
a natural bench in there.
gonna be able to fund it if we give it back to you and keep the road open, which is one of our things that we've said we want to have happen, is the road to stay open. You know, we've got the railroad trestle there. You know, if we're talking about emergency personnel getting back through there and stuff that way and to the other side of the tracks and things along those lines, that's our,
Yeah, it's something like right at 5 miles to get, if you had to go through there to get to accident, whatever, just across that. If you had to go west of Boy Court, up and around and over and back down, I think it's right at 5 miles the last
and
time.
if there was a train over the tracks.
Something. Well, it's the road's under the tracks there. What I'm saying is, if that road didn't go through there, then
That
that's
would be
what you're.
5 miles, and you
It-
could have
between-
you could have a train over the tracks on the 5 mile jog.
That's actually correct. Yeah, that's very true, because it is.
That's the
tracks
only-
are right there at the river bridge, so
Right.
you'd be way jammed up. Then, if you're trying to go north and there is a train across the tracks, that's actually a great point, Jason, because any scenario
That's-
where you're trying to go north and west from there, if there's a train across the tracks, this would be your option to keep
get
going,
under
to
the
keep
train.
going north and west from there.
Yep.
Guess that answered her question.
Okay, so you're gonna try to put together a rough number, something along those lines for us to have in a folder, or?
Projects, yes, I'll get with Jesse, and Jesse's going to have to tell me what, as far as manpower, equipment,
Right.
time, trucks, what it's gonna take to move that. And I don't know that we have to go the full 16 feet. That was the recommendation of our engineers. You know, because any movement into the side of that hill is going to give us time. The further we get away from there, their recommendation was 16 feet. We will never deal with it in our lifetimes again. You know, but at some point, somebody's gonna have to deal with it. So I would say the investment and how far we push in will be equal to the amount of time we buy ourselves.
Yeah, and like, I'm no, geomorphologist, but at some point in there, you're going to get into a rock bank. And right now it's like a silt clay bank, and there's a big rock outcropping feature in there. So, I mean, you may find a spot in there where the river just kind of stops because it's up against a hard bank now and not a soil bank where it's
Washing out.
pretty
Right.
active, right? And, whether it's 16 feet or not, I think there's going to be a natural little kind of tie-in spot where it just kind of makes sense before you get to the steep and say, hey, the return on investment's not here. But we bought ourselves a bunch of time, and
Okay.
it's kind of that sweet spot.
that's how I'd like to move forward. What do you think,
I'm
Jim?
good with that.
After we do the 913.50, I'll ask Jesse to look at this and see what we do as far as coming up with numbers.
Perfect.
If I'm available and y'all are cool with it, I'd like to just tag along with
Oh,
Jesse.
of course.
Yeah.
We'll do site project visits
Sure.
because we're gonna have to discuss everything that we do. You're gonna have to get permission for us to move on, move that road.
Okay.
And I understand it's less the roadway, but we're still gonna.
Sure.
It's
There'll be
a
some.
formality, we're still gonna have to meet.
Yeah, understood.
So,
Thanks for coming in,
Hey,
Jay.
appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
You bet.
I guess we're ready for Jason Weber now.
Morning, Commissioner. Jason Weber, Weber Heating and Cooling. I was asked to come talk to you guys about I think we have 6 systems that I put down that we ought to look at budgeting to replace. So what do you guys have for questions?
Where are the 6 systems?
Okay, so I've got one system that is on this building, takes care of the offices. It's an old Linux unit. It's fairly old. Not having any problems with it currently, but due to its age, Sean and I have been talking about looking to the future for budgeting purposes and stuff. We are in the process of getting ready to change refrigerants again. So after the first of the year, prices are going to go up considerably. I'm already starting to see the prices changing on us. So I've got this unit here. I've got a unit at the 4-H building that covers the restrooms and the kitchen area. It's an old Linux unit also. It's 20 plus years old. So I've got the annex building here. Old district court building, pretty much all the units over there are all anywhere from 15 to 20 plus years old. It was something that I was kind of in hopes that we could address when the building was empty instead of now that we're occupied again. So it's going to be, when we go to start replacing those, that's going to be additional issues because I'm going to have to take ceilings out. A lot of the furnaces are over the top of where desks are. So more than likely when we go to that part, we're going to have to move people out of the offices while we do it and take ceilings out and then put them back in.
And like, so time frame on these things. So do we have, you've got start budgeting to replace, budget to replace. Is there, what kind of time frames are you putting in on those things?
Well, I mean,
How?
to complete the project or when you should start doing them.
When we should start looking into replacing.
Do we have 3 to 5 years? Do we have,
Well, the problem is we don't know.
I know,
You
but
know,
I
it
mean,
could fail and then we could be looking at, because we had to replace a compressor this year over the annex or over the appraiser's office this year that failed. And it was one of those, do we replace the compressor now or do we replace the complete system? Time frame wise, with the heat that we had, it was better just to go ahead and replace the compressor on it to get going.
So one of them in the old district court has been replaced. Is that the way I see that?
The
That's fine.
compressor was replaced.
Okay, the Linux.
It was
I just see a price on the district court. There's 5 units and
right,
only 4 of them's budgeted.
right. That one there's one of the newer ones. That's on
Okay.
So with that, we're looking at having to have a crane come in to replace the units, to be able to get them up on the roof, get the old ones off. So budget wise, it would be better to look at, if nothing else, replacing
all of those in one
time, whether we, catch it when we're in that time between, the 60 to 70 degree weather and the 80 to 90 type weather. That way we could pull all the old units off the roof, get the new ones set in place, give us time to actually do the work, to get everything
So
completed.
that's
in
4
time.
of the 6 are on that
Right.
building.
And then, AMR Station 1 over at Pleasanton, they've got an old, trying to pull it back up real quick.
Two and a half ton York.
Yeah, they've got an old, now that's actually at AMR, or at, Station 900 or 920.
Okay.
The administration office over there, they've got a 2.5 ton York system, and that unit, we've kind of been Band-Aiding off and on, haven't really had to do much the last couple of years, but the first year that I started in, working on stuff, we had to do quite a bit of work over there. The outdoor unit is, the fins on it are so smashed up that it's pretty much beyond repair. Efficiency wise, it's not really efficient.
This AMR2 shows it's new, is it?
AMR2 is new.
But AMR 1 on the back page,
Yeah.
the third page, third, right there.
Okay.
Right. So AMR 1 and AMR 3, if you want to call it that, over at Centerville Supervisor's Office, they've got a brand new through the wall unit that failed on them a couple of summers ago, and you guys had, I believe it was Rick doing maintenance at the time, and he replaced that himself. So it's still in good shape. But yeah, the AMR Station 1, it's got an old heat pump that sets out in a lean-to style building that's on the back side of that building, and it sets inside, and it's so old that I don't even have any information really on it. I was able to get a model and serial number on it, and it's hooked to a Goodman air handler upstairs. The problem with it is if I go to replace the outdoor unit, we'll have to replace the indoor unit too, because it's a R22 system. So basically all these are all R22 units. So it's, do you replace them now with the 410A units that are in the process of being eliminated now also? Or do we go to the new refrigerant,
Okay,
which
so-
is after the first of the year?
So what are we looking at? So are we gonna run into inability to get parts for the old stuff
Eventually we will.
eventually?
Yep.
And like, do we have like a time frame?
Currently, no. It just depends on the unit. I've had some units that was 5 years old that went obsolete that I couldn't get parts for,
Right.
so typically anything that's 20 years and older, it's kind of a good luck situation to try to find parts to fix them if we do that. Just in the experience that I've had so far with business
Okay.
over the last 20 years.
Budget wise, do we?
How much money we're talking about?
So the old district court is what, 64,000?
56, let's see, 56,000 and the 4 of them.
Yeah, 56. Thank you.
I don't think it's that we couldn't find that money. It's just going to be, we'll need to look at budgets and
And like and then the other ones are another, what, 47?
like another 47,000
Thousand.
total for.
Right.
For all of these.
Anything.
That's why I'm thinking that we split it into waves. We do this one, we do that one.
Right.
Are you thinking like right after the first of the year for one, or what are we talking about?
I mean, do we have any budget to put it on this year? Or, I mean, we're not going to really have a time frame where we're going to want to be without them before the first of the year.
No.
Right.
So I think it's going to have to be after the first of the year, right, Jason?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, like the fairgrounds, if you wanted to do it, you can do it at pretty much any time unless you've got somebody that's going to be in there. But that's one of those that when I take the furnace down in there, definitely want to get the furnace back up and going that day, because
Right.
if we fall below
Right,
freezing, we don't want to have a problem where we're freezing pipes down there.
of course.
The package units that feed the main area of that building
So like,
will take care of
do
it.
we have anything built into that 4-H building budget that we haven't used so far this year? Could we look into,
Yeah, let me see where we're at on some of these.
because I mean, it has its own budget.
Right, and it's typically not a lot of budget on that one, but, let's see where we're at. 4-H, we have used 67% of that budget through the October bills, which leaves us about $9,500. There's 3,000 on this included in that. There's 3,000 on a capital outlay line that we haven't touched. The contractual line is actually over budget, but the commodities are under by quite a bit. I mean, just judging from that, there's probably 19, that's about 2. It's probably around 5,000 to work with in that budget before the end of the year.
Okay. And
After
like, is
other
that something we
expenses.
could split and do part of it off of this year and part of it off of next year? Or,
Well, we could, I mean, if it's
I mean,
something like where we,
he's estimating 9,500.
if we could buy or pay for parts this year and then have the work done next year or something, is that a possibility?
We could look at doing that.
That way
I'm
we
willing to
could-
work with you guys to make it however we need to do
Yeah, that way
it.
we could pay for the actual equipment that's going in this year and then pay to do the work next year, which I don't know how that part of it compares.
So, and we'll need to check with the extension office to make sure that,
Well, for scheduling, yeah, make sure we can pick a
Well
time
done.
when they don't have.
they don't have any other plans for that money, right?
Well, and they typically don't do much with this budget on it. I mean, this
Okay.
is more us. I mean, they'll have some cleaning bills that come out of there. A big part of that contractual is, or the commodities, is when we buy propane,
Right.
which we're into a season now where if it's not full, it's going to need it soon because we'll start using more of it.
Yeah,
What
'cause we
about the
ran out
AMR
last year.
building? Where we at on those?
On what?
AMR buildings?
So in ambulance budget, we didn't put a lot in there for anything other than what we pay AMR. So obviously that bill's gonna happen. We've got one payment left on that for the year, and we do have 4,800 in capital outlay that we have not touched in that budget this year.
So would that be another one we could do the
So
same thing?
probably could. I mean, if we could get,
So that would be replacing 2.
2 of the 6?
And then we could look at adding in for the old district court into budgets next year for 2026.
and we always do.
Because I mean, that's going to be the biggest line item.
Yeah, we always do some special building money every year that I really don't have assigned to anything. However, I think we just talked about that recently, that we might be using some of that on something this year, and I don't remember off the top of my head what it was.
Fixing the roof
Possibly.
and going into making the fixing the things that we need to take care of outside of the roof.
Yeah.
I think that's what we were
Yeah.
talking about along those lines. Does that sound right, Jim?
Could have been, might have been.
I mean, overall, right, and all of these budgets are within the general fund. Our general fund budget right now, this is through October's bills, we're at 61%. So it's not that we don't have some money there that we could come up with if we need to use it on something.
Like the district court, could we do that over a weekend or something? I mean, is that something that could happen?
Probably could split it between a few weekends.
Take more.
So 2 units.
Yeah,
Yeah, because by the time you start,
it's gonna take more crane to come back once.
well, what I'm thinking is if we timed it right to where, like I said, we're in between seasons where they're not needing the air conditioning, I could bring the crane in, pluck them all off the roof, get the new ones set in place, and
Then start working
on the inside portion. Because it's going to take some time because it's all drop ceilings like this is. By the time you take that all down and then put it back up and allow for any incidentals that you have with this stuff, because anytime, I don't know whether you've ever taken these kind of ceilings down, but anytime you start taking them down, you set yourself up for
Breakage.
So these tiles, especially over there, those tiles are getting pretty brittle. So I don't like the idea that the units are up above them anyway, but we have to work with what we have now. So,
So here's another thing I'd want to look at, not just what is left in budget, but what we budgeted to carry over. And I've got contingency and windfall money in there that I need to look at how I did the budget and see what the carryover was meant to be and see if there's some available there that we could put on something too.
Right. Well, I think I'm leaning towards if we could try to split those two and get them replaced and then work on budgeting. You know, if we put some back to special equipment out of those funds or something along those lines, if we had some extra to start setting back the money to pay for these going forward.
And that's the kind of things we're going to be looking at in the next few weeks
Agreed.
to get all those end of year transfers done.
Well, we could maybe move ahead and get the two. I mean,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. If you think that's the way to go, where we already have those things, I mean, we already have those budgets approved. We already have the funds sitting there and stuff that way.
So here's just kind of a quick look in contingency right now. We have spent 489,000 this year. And what I put in the budget was that we might spend up to 674. So we've got almost 200,000 there to work with for transferring to equipment reserve or putting back for projects minus whatever we spend the rest of the year in there. And then in the windfall account, on that one, I budgeted that we might spend 250,000 this year. And currently we have spent, let me find it on here. We have spent nothing out of that budget this year.
How much was it?
250,000. Now, windfall is one that would be a good place because I've already budgeted next year to keep it at the same level. But where I budgeted that we might spend 250 this year, that might be a 250 we could put into equipment reserve or something if nothing else comes up before the end of the year that we need to use it on.
Right.
Without hurting us for budget next year.
Okay.
So
we've
there's some
we've got
options.
some possibilities, but like I said, I would like to proceed with the 4-H building and the AMR out of those existing budgets. Try to split them over the course of the calendar years here and get those moving forward. Do you think that would be?
Yeah.
And then we can, if we've got enough money at the end of the year here where we can set aside half or all of it or whatever.
Yeah. And then we could just do it as we got ready next year or whenever and get them done.
Yeah.
so you're thinking do 4-H, AMR 1, and then hold off on the old judicial building and admin 900.
Yeah. And like admin 900, I mean, does that not come out of their budget as far as the emergency
Yeah,
management?
see, that one's kind of a combination EM and fire, and I haven't looked specifically at what they've got left in.
So maybe along those lines, it's talking to Randy and seeing where he sits on whether we go ahead and do that one now or whether we're pushing it as well.
Yeah.
See what he's got? Yeah.
Right?
I know at one point in talking to Randy about theirs over there, we were talking about possibly pulling it off the mezzanine and setting it back in the back garage, but I don't know whether that's still going to be an
Okay.
option or not. But just because it's where it's set and it's kind of in a bad spot. He uses that whole area for storage and takes away a lot of his storage space. But that's something that I can look at down the road if he decided he wanted to do
Okay.
with this change. So,
All right, well, we'll get back to you on the third one and we'll
that works.
start moving forward on the others. Do we need a motion to?
Commissioners, I would like some clarification. I guess Jason and I spoke when we originally talked about this plan. I know you have a contract for service and agreement with him. And that contract for service and agreement, if you're going to make large purchases and replace large equipment, I would encourage you to take that agreement that you've already made and you've already bid out, have someone review it and make sure that we do not have to go out to bid for these large items, that we already have an agreement in place that covers those replacements. That way you are covered as far as the liability of making these large purchases without bidding them out.
So on like the two we're talking about, I mean, we're talking like $10,000 this year, $10,000 next year.
Those are not as concerning to me as
The 50,
the whole roof replacement thing. It's just a question that needs answered. We discussed it. Was that part of the agreement? Did it cover it? Does it legally cover it? Or do we need to bid these projects out? And neither one of us are attorneys and can come up with that answer. And I certainly wouldn't want to overlook the conversation and then have that conversation come back to you after you made a decision. So I'm posing it to you so that you can either go out to legal to ask the question or tell me drive on.
Well, you'll continue, if we was to go out for bid, you'll be continuing to do the maintenance if we did have to go out. I mean,
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I didn't catch that when I was doing the whole plan for the maintenance. I did not include that little caveat into my contract. I had another customer that called me out on, and she's like, hey, you need to make sure you have this in your contract. So it's now in all my new maintenance contracts.
where you get the
Yep,
service or the
yeah.
replacement.
Because technically, the contracts that I used to do up in the city when I worked for a company up there, you were the sole provider of that service.
Well, I guess we can go out for bid here and we can just check you real quick right here on this one.
You have to remember, that is just budgetary numbers, because I did not want to go
I
to specific numbers.
understand.
Because, there is a good chance that
Go up, well,
it could go up.
I understand.
So do you think we'd have any issue on the two? The smaller ones?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we move forward with the smaller ones,
Okay.
check into it on the,
Bring us back a price on the two and just see, I mean, just
Yeah.
to verify where we're at. I mean,
Okay,
right? Okay,
sounds good. So I'll work up a invoice to split off the equipment versus the labor, and we'll kind of go from there. And then if nothing else, we'll have them purchased. If they fail, before we decide to go ahead and get them replaced, we'll have them.
right.
Because that's what I've done with some of my other customers.
Well, the parts on hand.
That's right.
What a deal.
And you also have to remember, at any time, any of the other systems could fail on us.
right.
Because some of the systems are older in the county. But everything seems to be working really good. We had an issue with a coil and a drain pan up here on the newer unit of the two, and we got that fixed late summer, before it caused a major catastrophe. So
Sounds good.
if you have any other questions, feel free to give me a call.
Thank you,
All right, thanks for your time.
So now that I'm finally getting to a point where within the next few days, I can put this election to bed. I've still got some reporting to do with the state. That's one of my next things to work on, is to start working on all this year-end information, see what we've got left in budgets and in projections, and what might be available for transfer to equipment reserve and various funds at the end of the year. So I'll be working on some of those projections soon.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have.
You got anything?
Good.
You got something, Fred? Yeah, we'll let you.
I mentioned to Sean about a road condition that's here in Linn County on the west side. And I think you know that road, Mr. Johnson.
What are we talking about?
It's called Fawcett Road. And it's basically a historic road because there is a ford south of 1350 that can be traversed across the Big Sugar Creek when the weather is good and there's not too much rain. But if I had one request that I could ask of you gentlemen today, is to go out and get on Fawcett Road at 1350 and drive north on Fawcett Road for 1/2 a mile to 1400 Road. Is the worst section of road in Linn County, maybe in the state of Kansas. It's incredibly bad. I wish I had a photograph here to show you today, just
Did you drive your boat down it today? Or?
so you know, Jim.
I know right where you're talking
You-
about.
And now the county is spending a whole bunch of bucks on 1350 because there's been a few good souls that really complained about it, and rightfully so. But
I
now,
just complained about what you're talking about last week. I had a discussion with our road supervisor about it. I mean, within the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've talked to him multiple times. And that 1/2 mile you're talking, we've got a raised road.
it's in
clean
bad
condition.
shape, isn't it?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Been that way for years.
Yeah. And it's traveled 365 days of the year by feed trucks because there's feed lots north of 1400 Road.
The issue is the road's lower than the ditches.
There are no real ditches ever dug along there or any culvert.
So is that what Jesse mentioned in his report, that, you know, we got the 1350 road and then he had about getting more clay?
Well, they're putting it on 1350, but this 1/2 mile that he's talking about, I've talked to Jesse about it multiple times too. I mean, it needs the ditches cleaned out. We could clean them out. It's, landowners there. I mean, we got places to put the dirt. We just haven't got to it.
Okay.
I mean, this is something, I've talked about this a lot of times, Jason, to our road supervisors.
Okay.
This isn't just the first time. I mean,
Wasn't
I drive the road every day just like he does. I'm up in his neighborhood every day.
Okay.
So it needs fixed.
Gentlemen, if you do get this road fixed and I know you will, you'll probably get elected commissioner again. And I thank you.
My, wow, thanks.
Well, is that everybody? I'll make a motion with adjourn.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So going into the meeting in December, since I'm already getting emails and phone calls and all this, so when are emails issued for elect? And then,
We probably just need to, or maybe as commission vice chair, since the chair in there, Jim, if you want to tell Chris to get something set up.
I just don't want to come in January and then nothing's even set up. And then also like going to the meeting in December, so